Mouse PI has taken the spotlight in gaming recently. With its release catching the audience's appeal, the game's reception has also managed to spark controversy at the same time. With a very ungracious review from IGN, the gaming community almost galvanised behind this game in defence against IGN's stupidity. What I find interesting is that for me, there are glaringly clear flaws with this game that haven't registered with other players as far as I can see. Whether or not this is in retaliation to a notoriously bad review from our friends down at IGN is unknown. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy shitting on IGN as much as the next man, but maybe there's something to say about the perspective that people have on this game because of this review in question. Does it benefit the game that IGN hates it, or are people lulled into its overtly appealing characteristics? Maybe it's both. Irrespective of this, I felt isolated in my opinions about this game and wanted to share them to see if anyone's views were aligned with mine. And just to note, there will be gameplay and story spoilers ahead. With very little known about Mouse PI for Hire, I, like probably many others, had seen it to be revealed and eventually released with probably not much knowledge of the game going into it. Simply put, the art style and sound design really went a long way in grabbing my attention, and I'm sure that was the same for a lot of people. And it goes to show, booting up the game for the first time, I felt as though I was delving into this really new, unique experience that kind of felt feverish to try, like it was the hot topic for gamers at the moment. Noir blended with 1930s cartoon animation, it is quite a gravitating hybrid of styles. It kind of destined to garner lots of gamer appeal and then eventual praise. My point is that while this does lull you into playing it, sadly the art style isn't strong enough to carry the game on its own. This is where the gameplay comes into play. Truthfully, for me, the gameplay does become really mundane, and it lets down the whole experience. Where it could have elevated the game, it really diminishes a lot of originality, mainly just by making everything super simple. Relatively small battle rooms with not much room for player creativity. You'll be able to swing your grappling hook and kick an explosive barrel, but after what felt like fighting the same enemies in the same kind of rooms, I started to feel pretty underwhelmed. Enemy variation is kind of sparse, with most new enemies just being reskins with the same type of weapons. The gun selection for me feels like a slight metaphor for how I feel about the appeal of this game. Now, super attractive to the eye, and then pretty simple and unfulfilling under that veil. The rubber hose style guns, they're sick to reveal when used for the first time, but I quickly discovered that they mostly don't lend themselves well to the style of game. A movement shooter where your screen is covered with enemies that don't feel that fun to mow down, because every weapon is weak as piss, bar the machine gun and the goo gun. Pistol is weak, needs frequent reloading. Shotgun is weak as shit, needs constant reloading. Bazooka it's as strong as you would hope, but again, it just hinders you with reload times. The laser sleeper, it stuns the one enemy you hit. The ice weapon stuns one enemy after a couple of seconds and doesn't kill them unless you hit them for longer. These guns now, they do have an alternate move where you typically fire more bullets at a larger scale, but that just fast tracks your gunplay to reloading again. You also can't auto-key weapons, so pulling up the weapon wheel to only have the choice of 2 guns at quick disposal completely dampens player limitations and also halts the immersion of the intensity of the battles. Having all these crazy enemies just chasing you around in circles, and then to just completely pause that just to slowly scroll around your weapon wheel to find which weapon suits you best. Completely pauses the action and any intensity that comes with that. Having an auto key feature implemented, it would just completely eliminate this kind of downfall, at least in my eyes. You could auto key maybe even just a maximum of 4 weapons, and that vastly improves not only immersion for the combat. It would then just diminish any kind of downside to the action or anything that slows it down, which the weapon wheel does quite a lot. Now, all these drawbacks around time spent loading or firing your gun would be fine if the guns actually felt impactful to use, but they just don't really ever feel that effective against the masses that swarm you. I did play this game on hard, because normal just felt like there was no immediate danger at all, and I still found myself rarely in trouble when going up in difficulty. I think it's fair to say that the guns in this game, they're not balanced. The level designs are really cool in this game. The locations and settings, they're diverse and they're really fun to explore. But you definitely do start to feel a pattern of repetition start to form. Just in the order of actions. So you wipe through a couple waves of enemies, you explore for loot, and then you kind of just rinse and repeat that until you eventually reach a clue that you're not really that aware that you're actually looking for, or that the objective of this level is to search for. And on the back of that, I really love the movement in this game. It feels really responsive and smooth, but it again just doesn't really feel like it's maximizing its full potential. Instead of scrambling for loot and whatever secrets you can find in your breaks from enemy waves, what you could do instead is involve some really interesting sequences for platforming, where you can actually use your movement capabilities in challenging, fun ways. Also, it seemed to me that you only start to see the more progressive abilities come through until over halfway into the game. The wall run, for example, was introduced in the final third, if I'm not mistaken, not really leaving much time for this ability to be experimented on and used in exciting ways. As far as I remember, there was just a handful of moments at most where I actually used the wall run, which is really uninspired. And the option to wall run essentially grants you the ability to continuously suspend yourself in the air. So the limitations for platforming sequences, they're truly never ending in that regard. Or, well, they would be if the game tried to capitalize on it. You could have sequences where you literally don't hit the floor for like a minute at most, purely just because you could be wall running, then grappling, then wall running again, and so on and so forth. Maybe with bounce pads to target where you're dropping. It also just makes me think of the Steve Bandel level near the end of the game, where you're traversing around these really abstract areas with just really basic 2-point platforming. Where the theatrics of hell come into play, why couldn't there have been like a crazy long hellscape platforming sequence? It just never really feels like they properly looked at these abilities that you get, especially quite close to the end of the game. And they just didn't really have many thoughts of how could we improve this or just convert this into something cool, fun, diverse, and not stagnant is the best way to put it. They're just the movement and platforming is very stagnant. It doesn't really feel like it wants to leave its own comfort zone or kind of take any risks. With everyone's kind of adoration for this game and love so far, there is a bit of fear of obviously sounding a bit too cynical when it comes to approaching this game. So I do want to say that it's not to say that this game isn't fun. It categorically is a very fun game. I just don't think it does a very good job in sustaining that towards the end. And yeah, at the risk of sounding a bit spoiled, this game definitely could have been a lot more exciting if it just stepped out of its own box from time to time. I've seen a few people criticize the story, which we'll get to shortly, but I just think a movement shooter like this really would have benefited far more with just a more dynamic and balanced gameplay design. The story of Mouse feels kind of absent for the player. It's not to say this game is completely devoid of story, but it kind of feels like it is taking place around you rather than with you being an integral part of it. I think the game wants you to be engaged with what is happening, but it's difficult to see the story past being directed to clues through levels and then posting said clues on your clue board for the game to then essentially take the reins and tie things together for you. It's less feeling like Sherlock and more like Watson, really, where your hand is just being held through it. One of my favourite levels was actually the steamboat, mostly because it was a breakaway from the formulaic style of the regular levels. But the steamboat actually does incredibly well in helping you feel like you are interacting with the story, but within its own aesthetically satisfying style. You're sneaking around, searching for keys to lock doors, taking incriminating photos, in what feels like a rare moment of quality storytelling. I appreciate the writing in this game. It keeps it light, fun, and brief enough where it doesn't start to drag. IGN's comment of too much mention of cheese is obviously typical for them, and is actually something that helps keep the quirkiness of this world intact. That goes for other kinds of meta references that this game makes. You know, mobsters screaming gabagool when dying, like I'm here for it. But I can't help but think that it does also represent that kind of deception that this game hosts. You know, bunches and bunches of appealingly fan servicey content with just not much substance underneath. It's like a comfy welcome through the door, through the like outset of the game, until you kind of get past that and you realize that the game is quite simple. And there's nothing wrong with simple. I'm not seeing this game for anything other than the whimsical cartoon that it's set out to be. Include a Dark Souls reference, like a bonfire with a sword through it, sure. But let me be a detective as well, you know. I would argue that the latter is better focused on. It's not to say that this is intentional, but it certainly would be clever to adopt a direction like this, where you may be able to distract the player and maybe even pull the wool over their eyes. Like if I can make some kind of weird metaphysical transaction where I exchange all of the cutesy references for an improved story or improved gameplay, then I would take it every time. There isn't really much worth noting down past the gameplay and story. I do really like the collectibles that can be discovered. They offer a range of world-fitting memorabilia like figurines, comic strips, baseball cards. And further on from that, I did really enjoy the baseball card minigame, but again, past reaching 20 tickets to insert into the machine, I couldn't find any drive to return back to it. I also want to address the music, because it certainly does have its moments to shine. When a fresh bebop track is ringing down your ears while you're zipping around the place shooting enemies, it does truly feel tremendous to experience, and it's so well paired with everything that this game is trying to deliver to the player. In summary, I really liked Mouse PI for Hire. Broadly speaking, maybe a 7.5 out of 10, which is an objectively pretty good score. But I felt motivated to share my opinions on this game as they seem to be slightly uncommon with the gaming community at the moment. I think it's fair to say that, interestingly, the perspective on this game has been somewhat influenced by the dismay for the IGN review. So I thought it would be applicable to take an honest look at this game and clearly separate the good from the bad. So far it seems that everyone adores this game, so I welcome any others that feel I'm off the mark with this one. I very well might be. But for now, I definitely have feelings of slight disappointment and definitely unachieved potential.